Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Welcome along, everyone, to the RTÉ GAA podcast as hurling finally gets a weekend to itself. Myself and Rory are going to look ahead to round 2 of the Allianz League with Shane McGrath, Malachy, Clerkin, and we're going to chat as well about the rising costs of running an inter-county setup, which we're hearing this week is being described as a €40 million runaway train. So we'll get to that in a while. But lads, let's start with matters on the pitch. Division 1A this weekend, Cork and Kilkenny is our live game on RTÉ on Saturday night. Wexford and Offaly also play on Saturday, and then on Sunday it is Waterford against Clare. And Shane, feels like a big one for Cork this weekend, because if they win, they can really jumpstart their whole season after what was a slow enough start against Clare last weekend. But if they lose, suddenly they're under so much pressure to even retain their status for Division 1 next season. How do you see this one?
I just think, I suppose, Jacqui, like the league is what it is. It is a bit more exciting this year, in my opinion, but I think that there's just games in the league that you kind of target and you have to really go after. And with what happened above and Ennis, like Clare were by far the better team above and Ennis the other day. Cork got 2 goals totally against run of play. So I just think that I actually thought Cork were really going to go for this league. I thought, Pat Ryan said last November, I think his quote was, "Who are we in Cork not to take the league serious anymore?" I think was his quote. So, and also as well, you wanted this Cork group, they need a national title. They have won a few Munsters, a few of them, but they at senior level, they need a national title. And I just think Saturday night now down in Cork, that this is the game that they should really be targeting. There should be a great buzz around training this week. There should be no need to get lads going or anything like that. But they have to perform. And I know they've the world of lads involved with Fitzgibbon there at the moment. But
not anymore, Shane.
Well, not anymore now after last night. But Galway have loads of lads involved. Tip have loads of lads involved. Kilkenny have loads of lads involved.
Limerick.
I don't think they can use that to say, we the Fitzgibbon. Lots of counties have the Fitzgibbon going on. Yeah. So I think if a message is going to be sent out, Jacqui, by Cork, it has to be sent out Saturday night. If they don't get a win Saturday night, and I've said it before, 1B is a much softer side to try and make the top 3 because you have Antrim and Westmeath there. And the way Dublin are hurling at the moment, maybe they'll get better. Tip, Galway and Limerick will really say, right, if we beat Dublin, we're in the top 3, right? Whereas 1A, all the teams are going to look at Offaly as their banker. And I just think after that, then it could be anyone. It could be Wexford, Waterford, Cork, Kilkenny, Clare. So I think if they don't get something out this Saturday night, then they have a couple of weeks off. I think there'll be some serious head scratching going on to say, how are we going to get in 1A? And you mentioned already, Jacqui, about financial stuff and things like that. I was just looking at it there. I think the financial thing is going to become a factor of it now. And I think, I just make sure I have my figures right now. 200 grand Cork are making on their league games. So I think everybody's going to be wanting.
You're not going to make 200 grand, Shane. Shane, you're not going to make 200 grand if you're playing, with all due respect and obviously no respect, if you're playing Laois and Carlow.
No, you're not. People aren't going to go to it. And I think it was mentioned that the first round league games were kind of down on attendance from last year. But I tell you, lads, at the good games, there was some crowd at it. E.g., I was down in Nolan Park. There was nearly 9,000 people at it. The games that the Corks and take Cork and Limerick last year in the league, was there 20,000 people at it?
Yep.
I think that really now, financially and for the group, Jacqui, Cork need to get this win. And I'd say Kilkenny will go strong at this too. I'd say they had 9 out of their starting All-Ireland 15 didn't even tug out last Sunday. I think 3 or 4 more of those guys will feature this Saturday night. So yeah, I think if Cork want to do something, Saturday night is the night to do it, I think.
The thing is, Rory, right? You were talking about it there, about Cork and, I won't say their excuses about Fitzgibbon and different things or whatever. If you take their performances last year and a couple of 1-point defeats, they had a draw, they were very unlucky to not get out of Munster. But suddenly, if it becomes a narrative again this year that, they were so close, but they didn't progress again, then that becomes something else to knock this team. I think Shane is absolutely right. They have to get something out of it this weekend because of that.
I think there's huge pressure on them actually this Saturday night in round 2. That's why it's a great game for TV. And I think there will be a huge crowd down the park. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think from from when I was yay high to a nipper, Cork, like there's a cultural thing in Cork where they just league is league and championship is championship. It was this thing that I even heard as a kid, and the league, even at club level, is just not taken seriously. I think they need to dispense with that notion, and that, as Shane said, needs to start on Saturday night. They've never really managed to take the league seriously. And then, of course, why? Because Cork would always say, look, we're a summer hurling team. It's all about the championship. No one will give a tuppenny's worth about whatever happened in the league if we can be one of the 3 teams that get out of the round robin. And if that's Pat's plan, fair enough. But there are financial implications of not being in that 3, and the pressure that's going to come on Saturday night, I think, will be told somewhat in selection. I think there's some people have suggested that some of the selection thus far has been disappointing, and that there hasn't been more I will say, of the under 20 brigade blooded into the team. I think he's probably trying to straddle a balance between some experience and bringing some of those newer, younger players through. That's a difficulty from his point of view. I think it'll probably be the same this Saturday night, as we mentioned there a couple of minutes ago, with UCC gone out of and MTU both gone as of last night. I wouldn't be surprised to see Rob Downey get parachuted in. SOS call gone up there, and he was about the only one, I suppose, that came out with any credit in the bank last night from a UCC team that was completely outclassed. And what a display by Garrett. Garrett O'Connor is pulling up serious trees, Shane. But, look, I think, I think the pressure's on. To a degree, I wouldn't be saying, any panic stations should they not get a victory on Saturday night. But I think it would be essential for them to win. There's going to be a huge crowd, as I say, and Cork public will probably want to see some sort of a response to the insipid display that was in Ennis last Sunday.
Yeah, insipid is a good word to describe it. The one thing is, though, Malachy, if they get a victory on Saturday night, they've got Waterford up next at home, then they go to Offaly. So things can actually turn around quite quickly for this Cork team.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny just even listening to the conversation for the last sort of 6-7 minutes. Isn't it such a different conversation to what we had on this podcast, say, this time last year, this time the year before, this time the year before? Yeah. The injection of one tiny bit of jeopardy, and it's only a tiny bit of jeopardy. Yeah. Like, nobody's year is going to be decided in the next few weeks. But we all know, even as Shane points out, the financial side of things, how important it is for Cork to be in Division 1A next year. Like, it's not a massive thing, but it injects at least a small bit of jeopardy.
Even the quality of game that you're going to get in preparation for championship, man.
Absolutely. And it's just... It is, we've just spent so many years just kind of going, trying to find interesting things in league hurling that just really weren't that interesting. And this, like, let's reiterate, this isn't even that amazingly interesting. Like, it's fine. It's like, we're looking at, there should be a crowd in the park on Saturday night.
There will.
They have set the stage by being, as you say, Rory, insipid last weekend, not great. Hoggy playing a full 70 minutes he's going to be 36 in like 3 months. Is that really what you want out of the first game of the year? Conor Lehan starting as well. I think Cork people need a bit more. They need a bit more sort of hope for the future. They need a bit more sense of, well, we know we have a load of young players. We need to see them. You've mentioned the Fitzgibbon, and obviously that has been a factor. I actually thought that in patches against Clare, I think overall Clare had so much more energy. They had so much more vim about them. But I thought Christopher or Kieran Joyce was terrific holding his patch. I thought the goalie was excellent. Had a couple of good saves. I think, like, you can totally overreact to one game in the league. We saw the Football League last weekend where, the turnaround in fortunes in 6 days for a lot of teams shows you what you can do in the league and shows you how uneven everything is at this time of the year. I think it's a big game. It's a fun game. I think from a totally neutral perspective, you look at it and it's totally worth tuning into. Like, whereas in other years you're just kind of going, ugh. Like, yeah, fine, it's a league game, and maybe in the last 15 minutes, because hurling is such a because of the sport that it is, like a game will break out in the last 15 minutes. Whereas we know, like at halftime on Saturday night, if Cork are 4 points down, 5 points down, like there's a real onus on them to come out and really start the second half well. So you're engaged immediately just by that, as I say, that tiny sliver of jeopardy that has been injected into the whole thing.
Well, I'm glad for it, because it has meant that there's jeopardy in all of these games. Because when you look at what's happening, even away from Cork, Shane, you know, like look at the other games, like Waterford, Clare, both of them winning last weekend, and suddenly they're in a different position. One game, Malachy is right, can make such a difference. Can we talk about them individually? Because I know Clare, to you, are still problematic given the amount of scores they're giving away. They're a team that I would have thought are stepping forward, but then I watched them last weekend against Cork, and I think you're absolutely right in what you say. The amount of scores that they're shipping would still give you great concern that they could be genuinely contenders at a latter point of the season.
Yeah, I think they are, like in championship terms from last year, they are the best team to challenge Limerick. I suppose how bad Tony Kelly, or how much time Tony Kelly's going to see before championship is a major factor. You know, he's their greatest hurler ever, in my opinion, and I say in majority of Clare hurling people's opinion as well. He's their best hurler ever. Shane O'Donnell not there, but like what they have now, I suppose, Jacqui, is they have, like, say, Shane Meehan has a bit of experience from last year. Mark Rogers, that bit of pressure sitting well with him. He's hurling really well. He was exceptional last Sunday, and you know they have a really, really good squad. What I was mentioning was, like, they were shipping on average 28 points every game in the Munster Championship last year. They gave away 219 against a Cork team that weren't great. I think something will have to give there with them. Like, I mean, if they ship another big score at the weekend, like if they ship 220 at the weekend down in Walsh Park, you know, I mean, it's hard to keep trying to reach that 30-point mark at this early in the year, like, you know. So yeah, I also think that Waterford, right? I'm actually going down Sunday there and do the radio Sunday with Páirc, like, and like I think Waterford need to make this Walsh Park, need to make this a fortress now down there. I mean, the pitch has always been exceptional down there. They have their new grounds now, basically new stands as well. So, you know, they will be looking to make this a fortress, like, you know, to actually have Munster Championship matches on down there in the first place. And what better place to do it than in the league? Like, I don't know what you think, lads. I think the Davy Lohan thing is a kind of done now, really. I think we used to be, this time last year, I think we were kind of, it was going to be a big rivalry. I think the sideline thing is less of an issue, and it's more focused on the players now. So, like,
you say that now and then comes.
Look, maybe on Sunday if it gets close and it gets tidy, because, like, Jacqui, I just think the thing of it is as well, like, from the 1A side of it, like, if you can nail a couple of wins in the first couple of matches, like, whatever way you're looking at the league after that, it's in your hands. It really is, like, to say, will we push on for the last couple of games in the league? Or will we say, do you know what, we're safe now. We have our status secured. We're not worried about getting to the final, really, or the semi-finals. But we're secured. So now they can decide then, right, are we in championship mode now? Or do we still really have to go after this league? And that's why I just think getting a couple of wins on the board before the break next week, I think, is big. So Waterford and Clare, I still think Clare are a better group than Waterford at the moment. Home advantage and everything for Waterford, they'll be really up for it. But I think Clare are in a better place, and I think they'll be going down. I think they're going to get the win, obviously, and I do think they'll get the win down there as well, Jacqui. But if they are shipping 219, 220, fair play to them. If they can keep winning these games, shipping those scores, it's unreal. Well. It will catch up with them, Jacqui. Like, e.g., you get to Croke Park later end of the year. It's just a habit you don't want to keep in, saying, right, they'll score 24, 25, 26. We'll still get 28, 29, 30. Because the day will come when they just won't hit that 28, 29 point mark. And it could be a big game. So,
well, I tell you, if you're playing against the Davy Fitz team and you can put that amount of ball past them, you'll be doing well, because they are a team that like to run and they'll play hard. The one thing is, Malachy, just judging by his comments after the Offaly game last week, doesn't sound like Davy Fitz is targeting a league with this Waterford team. It sounded like he was happy enough. They're bubbling away. They're waiting to get some bodies back. And I think Shane is right. Maybe just get a couple of wins, secure your status. That's all he's looking for. I could be wrong, but it didn't sound like he was a man that was chasing hard early on.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things there. As Shane was talking there, I was remembering I was in Castlebar on Saturday night for the Dublin Mayo football game, and we talked to Kevin McStay after it, and I was saying to him, Jesus, I say you feel a wee bit sheepish after winning that by a point, seeing as, you know, Dublin were the better team for long stretches of it. And he says, look, All these early games are, we have 4 points now. We need to get 2 more points, and then we'll sit down and we'll have a cup of tea and we'll think about the rest of the league. And I have a notion that so many of the managers think that way in these early weeks, that just we get 2 points on the board, we get 4 points on the board, we get to the point where we don't need to be looking below us, and we reset then. Secondly, though, with Davy and with Waterford, I don't think they have any real business targeting the league, trying to win the league, because their championship record has been so appalling.
Yeah.
They're so sick since the championship format changed. They're so sick of their championship record in Waterford. And that goes back through Liam Cahill. It goes back before that to Derek McGrath. They can't go another year winning maybe just one game, if even one game in
I think is it one win in total, Mal?
I think it's one in whatever it is, 18, 20 games, something like that. It's a ludicrous.
They hammered Tip last year anyway in Thurles, so we're sounding like that.
And it might be too.
But they've beaten Tipperary twice. That's correct.
But it's a shocking record on paper and in person. And their thing for the year is that they can't do that again. And like they've done it every which way. They've had bad leagues and done badly in the Munster Championship. They've had fantastic leagues and done badly in the Munster Championship. It has to end. And that's, I think, if they can make sure of their 1A status for next year reasonably quickly, and if they can, after that, all anybody cares about is performing in the Munster Championship. Getting through it is the next step after that, but actually finishing in the top 3 is what they need there, and that's what the year is going to be about, really, when it comes down to brass tacks. So I think you're right, Jacqui. I think there's no real level on which he's going, we're really going gung ho for the league here, because he can't afford like that to be the be all and end all. Like if they get to a league final, all of that sort of stuff, sure, it'd be great, and they're not going to turn it down when they get there. But that he can't say that as a stated aim for the year, because the stated aim for the year is one thing and one thing only.
Yeah, I think everybody in Waterford, Rory, will subscribe to that, because they've been waiting long enough for it to happen for them. And they've been talking about this team, and they can deliver for too long for them not to do something in the championship this year.
Well, it was his first year back last year. And I suppose the one real victory they got kind of happened a little bit out of sight, out of mind, because it was kind of felt at that stage that they were done and dusted, which they were, and they still managed to turn Tipperary over and nearly knocked Tipperary out. I think Cork managed to get a draw down in the Gaelic grounds. I think Tip were gone. So,
and they also gave Limerick a fantastic game, like
unbelievable game. They were, maybe, and some people I have heard say that maybe did they pour too much into that first game against Limerick, and then when things didn't work out, it maybe knocked the stuffing out of them to a certain extent. I don't know. There was a couple of extra things that I just felt was slightly worrying from their point of view. I know I think Shane McNulty stepped away, but then when I saw Austin Gleeson stepping away, I'm kind of saying, look, that, and then you're saying such a talismanic figure, does that point to a damaged spirit on top of everything else? But had a good look at their game against Offaly. I mean, in fairness to Davy, the one thing you'll always say about his teams, they're always in really good physical shape, and that's absolutely the case now. But it's just a case whether or not they can push on in the league, you know.
Rory, could I just jump in there quickly now? And I don't want to spend too time Waterford and Clare. Like, is there something in your county when the best club team in your county and some lads on the club team don't want to play for your county? Like, if I take Ballyhale and Kilkenny, like every one of them lads will kill a man to try and play for Kilkenny. And like, you know, I'm sure it'll be the same with Thomas's lads but like, is it something to say that some of the Ballygunner lads could be and should be maybe on this Waterford panel? The lads are stepping away. What is that like? For me, do they not really believe that they're good enough to win? Do they not believe that the county are good enough to win? And that's why they're saying, where's my chance to get my All-Ireland? It's probably with my club.
Well, listening to
I
them
don't know,
talk,
lads,
that's
like,
exactly what it sounds like they're saying, Shane.
Yeah,
Listen to the
so-
Ballygunner lads. That's exactly what they're saying.
And I think that has to be some bit of a factor too. Like with it, like is the belief not really there? Have the good coaches? They have the good players? They have. They've got their stadium now up there. They can make it a fortress. But I mean, if some of the best players in the county don't want to play for the county, I don't know. I'd love to know you're taking it, but I just don't know. Do they really believe? Like, if that's the case, do they all really believe? That's what I'd be thinking. Like.
What do you think, Mal? I agree, by the way, for what it's worth. I actually
I-
think Shane is absolutely right.
I think he is right, and I think that reflects badly on the Ballygunner people, the same way as it reflected badly on the Kilkenny lads in football when they wouldn't go in and play with Down and kind of look down their nose a wee bit at the standards of the Down county footballers compared to their own. I think if you're a club player and you're deciding not to play for your county, then I don't know if your view is really that interesting to me, to be honest with you. It's very easy to stand on the sideline and go, right, well, we're keeping our standards up, and I'm not saying that any of them are saying this explicitly, but I don't know. I think anybody can be a club player. I think being a county player is the top of the top, and if you are really that convinced that your standards are so high that you're too good for inter-county hurling, well, maybe your standards aren't that high.
The difference is, though, they're winning All Irelands, Rory.
They're winning Club All Irelands, Jacqui.
Yeah.
Like, fine. Yeah, it's great. They're the best club team in the country. Well, they won a Club All Ireland. Let's not get too carried away. But like at the same time, it's not the highest level, so fine. I'm just also a little suspicious of dominant club teams whose players aren't, as Shane says, the Ballyhill players never ever dream of not playing for Kilkenny, and I don't know. I don't think it speaks very well of the people who don't go in for their county. You go in for your county, play at the highest level, change it from the inside. If you have that dim a view of what the setup is and all of that, go and change it. Like, it's very easily. It's not very easy. Inter-county hurling is hard. Like, the highest level of the game is incredibly difficult. The easy thing is to sit on the sideline and say, sure, we have better standards here, but go in and win. Go and do it. Like, that's the game. That's the gig.
Yeah. Interesting debate. We'll come back to that one another day, I'm sure. Let's move on with some of the other big games of the weekend, because Shane, you were saying earlier about 1B being I don't want to call it a handier road, but it's certainly easier in more. Yeah. Okay. Well, look. For most
why
people,
don't you want to call it a handier road, Jacqui?
Well, because I think you don't want
teams are better than the littler teams.
Well, they are, and to be fair, though, when you're looking at it, you just don't know what Dublin are going to throw up. I think it's probably the one unknown for all of us at the moment. Shane, you're right. Maybe they're not hurling to their absolute optimum right now, but if they were, that suddenly becomes a much more competitive division. Looking at the games this weekend in 1B, Tipperary Galway stands out for a number of reasons, and you do wonder what sort of a reception the Tipperary crowd will be giving Eamon O'Shea if he can pull off a big win down there. It'd be like amazing for him, the things that he's done in his career. He's absolutely adored in Tipperary, but for him to mastermind a victory down there, Shane, it'd be another little string to his bow.
Absolutely, and I spoke about him this week with a few people, and there would be nothing but respect for him, Jacqui. Like it's like Mal was saying, he was at the football. It's not like Mickey Hart going up to Derry. Like this isn't like that at all. Like, I mean, if anyone knows him or doesn't know him, and this is the closest thing to Tipperary as it gets for him, and he lives 2 pucks of a ball away from Pearse Stadium up in Salt Hill. His son Donal is involved with Galway and is trying to establish himself. So this is as close as it gets for him. He's vested in the culture up there, Jacqui. He knows Galway hurling. He's been living up there most of his life now. He's been involved with the university up there as well. So he knows how the club scene is up there. He knows how people think from different clubs. So I think it was a no-brainer for Henry, and fair play to Henry. Like, I mean, lads, could you have foreseen this? Like back in 2009, 2010, when we're at the height of our rivalry, 2011, even, with Kilkenny, to say the man who was, one of their greatest ever hurlers gets the guy who was coaching against him in. And then on the flip side of it is now we have one of the former Kilkenny goalkeepers in Tipperary helping out to do a bit of coaching in the form of David Herity. So, time heals all, you know what I mean? And we're all best of friends now. And but look, there's nothing but respect for Eamon. We want him to do well, majority of us anyway in Tip. We just don't want it to be a Tips loss. And I just think, Jacqui, this weekend, right? What you see is if Tip and Galway, I think they can both really go for it this weekend. And why do I think that? I think next weekend is a weekend off, and the match when they come back after that is Tip's match is Westmeath and Galway's match is Antrim. So I think that they can both say, right, lads, we really, even regardless if it's given, right, that's going to take place. That's fine. The lad, in fact, ask the Fitzgibbon lads though, they're enjoying it. They're playing matches and they're doing little to no training for the people who are managing it well. Okay. So they're enjoying this, like this time of year. So I think Tip can go for it, and I think Galway can go for it because look, it's really 2-3 week window here after this, Jacqui. And as I said, if they can both get a victory, like the box, you're more than halfway there to being in the top 3. And as I said, it secures that, as Malachy said, you're not panicking, not panic stations coming into the last round or two to say we have to get something out of this. Like, whereas you can say, right, we're good. Now we can maybe flip it to championship mode. Those 5 or 6 guys, they don't need to go as hard now. We want them right. When do we want them right for first round of Munster, first round of Leinster Championship? So I think it'll be good. I also think on the flip side of it, right, it's early doors, yes. I just think that for Henry and for the Galway group of players, I think a cup needs to appear on a table for them. No more so than Clare, but I just think that like Henry's there now, this is year 3, isn't it? And like, I just feel that, he's just such a serial winner himself. And there was so much expectation, Jacqui, when he went up to Galway as well, that they just thought it would just be a given with the likes of Henry and what he'd done, that he just transformed the whole thing and they'd start winning and winning and winning. Now, they have been close, they have, yes, but I wonder, are they thinking, like, is this league, is it a chance for them, to get a cup on the table and use the momentum from that for the group to drive on into the Leinster Championship? So I think you'll get a really, really good game, and I think you'll see 2 really strong sides in them as well, Jacqui, because of the fixtures coming up after this one. So yeah, I really look forward. I'll be down in Waterford, but definitely listen on the way home to the lads. I think there'll be a right crowd at Sipple Stadium there as well on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly set up for the reasons that Shane has outlined, Mal, because they can actually go for it given what's coming down the track.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is the game I'm going to on Sunday now, and I can't wait for it because it is like it's a fair chance it's their biggest game, each of them, for maybe a month.
Yeah.
And a month in the intercounty season is an eternity, So, the teams will be interesting. I think that's the team sheets themselves will be fascinating. I watched Dublin's Tipperary's game against Dublin last weekend. Like, there's so many names missing off that Tipperary team sheet, and the game was Dublin kind of clawed their way back into it, and it kind of was in the balance far later in the game than Tipperary would have liked, until sort of Jake Morris kind of went, all right, let's get this over with, went and got his goal and kind of sealed the thing. But you look at the names that weren't on that Tipperary team sheet, you've Noel McGrath, Bonner came on, all right, but Jason Ford, Cathal Barrett, Mikey Breen, Dan McCormick, James Kennedy, you're talking half the team, really. The what we see is the established Tip team.
What they have in Tip, Malachy, just I really don't want to blow up Tip. I really don't, right? But they're going 5.
I do.
What they have right now is, I think they have a stronger panel this year, Mal, right? And
that's
I just think
you're right. You're taking the words out of me, Mal, Shane.
We 4 or 5 lads now this year that most hurling people in Tip would say that lad's good enough now. Sean Ryan Timpleberry is one thing. There's Andrew Ormond's there. Gerard O'Connor is burned up in Fitzgibbon. Our half-back line was out. Well, I thought was brilliant against Dublin. And they're 3 lads that we mightn't say at the start of the year, oh, is Conor Bowe going to make it? Is Robert Byrne going to make it? How's Owen Connolly going to do? These kind of things. Like, so they're all stepping up now with the bit of experience they have and stuff like that. So that's where I feel that, Mal, the names you mentioned, obviously they're top-class players, but I think now, maybe even more than last year, those lads are getting a little bit more pressure put on them, and that's what Tip need if they really want to compete.
And that's exactly
Yeah,
the
sorry.
point. That's exactly it. Like that's why the team sheets are going to be fascinating. Like I looked at Connor Bowe, and I've you know, he's been around the scene for 3 years now, and you're kind of going, what's his role, and is that going to be it? Is wing back going to be it? That's a really interesting change around. It's great to see Barry Heffernan finding his way back there. I don't know if that's if there's a long-term future there, but like there's a guy, you know, with established, has an All-Ireland medal under him. If they could get him back to the level he was at in sort of 19 or whatever, great to see Craig Morgan back as well. Like the amount of options Tipperary have is really promising for them, and exactly like that. They don't need to be racing like Noel McGrath back, and they don't need to be racing Carl Barrett back because they have the people there. But like Cal's obviously given himself options for later in the year, but it's one thing having those options playing against the Westmeads and the Antrims and whatever. This game on Sunday is, as we say, could be the last sort of really serious high octane game they have for a month. So it's going to be fascinating to see who they have out.
For that reason, Rory, if you're Liam Cahill, you are trying as much as you can to give some of these young lads as much exposure as you can to it, the likes of a Garrod O'Connor, to see, can he mix it against a Galway?
I think so. And like the key thing from Tipperary's perspective as well is they had just as much success in just before Cork went on that run with under-20 success, Tipperary had won a couple as well. Now, those lads are starting to come through, and it probably is symptomatic of the difficulties of establishing yourself in the modern intercounty game, in that your S&C side of things takes a couple of years to get up to scratch before you're actually trusted to go in there, because it is a very, very physical game now, particularly, you know, the modern intercounty game where possession is king, lots of lads carrying ball into contact, getting the flakes and the belts and being able to take that and not cough up possession. And I think that's probably why Liam Sheedy was a little slower and slightly more circumspect about putting those lads in so early, and kept going with the Brendan Mahers and the Shamie Cals and all of those guys. Whereas I think Liam Cahill is much more forthright now, and he's got probably a couple of extra years S&C work done with these fellas. And Tipperary have as strong a panel as anybody. I know I made mention at the beginning that I felt Cork's panel was strong, but Tips is right up there as well. And Tip, you know, in the famous words of Jerry Adams, they haven't got away, you know.
Yeah, look, they're certainly bubbling nicely. I think that's one thing you can say about Tipperary. What about the All-Ireland champions, Shane? Because it's hard to get a gauge on where they are, because it's so quietly drifting away in the background. You know, they play Westmeath this weekend. You'll expect them to go and get a big result there. Yep. Their status in Division 1A already secured. Their last two games are against Tipperary and Galway. And maybe we won't see the All-Ireland champions in full flight until then, maybe not even then. But it seems maybe this quiet little passage through a handy Division 1B is actually really suiting them down to the ground.
Down to the ground, Jacqui. Not much about them, you know. I mean, you're hardly even getting any coverage of the games, really, such as the extent that people think they're going to win them by. I suppose they're, you know, we couldn't believe on the radio, we heard it last week that like Antrim were actually winning there at one stage in the game, but I think maybe only lasted for like a few minutes, and then like they put up a cricket score like 136 or something like that, and 122 of it comes from three lads, and there mightn't even be guaranteed to be on the panel, let alone be on the team. Like, you know what I mean? This is the worrying thing for the rest of us. Like, so I just think, Jacqui, it's an ideal start for them. What they're trying to do this year, the history they're trying to make for themselves and everything. Like, I mean, John Kiley's like, you know, saying he only asked for a year extension. You know, all these kind of things. Is it just all in here now? So what? Like, I think a perfect start from Jacqui in regards that when the limelight goes on them, it probably won't come off, right? Yeah. Because of what they're trying to do. So no limelight this week, no limelight like a week off the following week. They go and they play Dublin, I believe, then next in Croke Park. Maybe they might use that as a kind of for the guys who haven't maybe played in Croke Park that much. They might say, right, we're going to be here later on in the year, right? So here's your chance now. Get used to the stadium, get used to the surroundings. Like, I just think it's an ideal first three games for them. As you said, they'll more or less have that status cemented by after Dublin game. So then will they use their Limerick, the Galway and the Tip game, will they use that as, you know, ramping it up we'll start seeing maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 of their championship team in those games. I don't think we'll see him until then. And I think this week will be similar to Antrim. So look, ideal start for John Kiley and his men. No, not much talk. That's the way he would have wanted it. And but as I say, Jacqui, when like with all the great teams, we just want to nitpick them, don't we? Like we want to see what's going, who's going where, why isn't he and what's he doing? You know, and I suppose there's a bit of stuff going on off the field as well. So there's very little talk about Limerick, and I think it just suits the group perfectly. Like
just on that fixture, Jacqui, I do just one small point that I think maybe is worth making. And look, who knows? Maybe the GA do have a plan around that particular fixture that Shane just referenced there, where Limerick play Dublin. But that's also the same. That's a double header. Dublin are playing Kerry in football, and the All Ireland Hurling champions are also in town. Now that to me is blockbuster. That's like, you know what I mean? You've three of the marquee teams in Gaelic games and the Dublin Hurlers all in action. That, if you can't sell that, and you know, I'm curious to see the marketing strategy.
What are you selling though, Rory?
Well,
are the All Ireland Hurling champions really coming to town that night, or are 6 or 7 of them coming to town that night?
some of them will go
at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, as a curtain raiser to a premium football match. I know the point you're making, but
okay.
I don't know how much I would hold the GA responsible for marketing a game like that. The thing that I find interesting about Limerick at the minute is that we're not that interested, because we know when the ball is thrown in the Munster Championship, we sort of know what we're going to expect from them, because they don't need to change anything really. Like every other team that we've talked about in the last half an hour
is looking for something.
And we're questioning who's starting. We're questioning, can they get the Fitzgibbon lads back? We're questioning, should Patrick Horgan be starting games? We have questions for every team. We don't really have questions for Limerick, because we know when the gun goes, we know what we're going to get from them, because it's the thing that they have won the last 4 All-Irelands with, the 5 of the last 6, and because they have done it facing every obstacle that you can come up with. They have come across every hurdle that's thrown in their way. They've found injuries, they've found suspensions, they've lost key players, and they've kept winning and winning and winning. So in a way, they're actually not that interesting on the 8th of February, because what are we going to find out about them now? What are you even going to find out about them in that double header in Croke Park on the weekend of the 23rd of February?
But maybe you don't need to find out anything, Mal. Maybe kids just want to go and watch them. You know, like I know what you're saying, but maybe there is an element of some of those people are not going to get to a Munster Hurling Championship, or they're not going to get to Croke Park when it comes later. Maybe it's their only chance to go and see this team who are going to be written in the history books forevermore. Yeah,
but as I say, like how sure before those people pay for their ticket, and the prices have gone up this year, how sure can they really be that they're going to see too many of the All-Ireland champions? And I don't say that in a derogatory way. I mean, Limerick have to find their way through the biggest season imaginable in whatever way they see fit. And I don't think, necessarily that they should be playing all their players. That's not what I'm saying at all though. But yeah, fine. Kids might want to see them playing in Croke Park, but Jesus, they land there at 4:30 on that Saturday evening and find that, oh Christ,
where's Cian Lynch?
Where's Cian Lynch? Where's Gerard Hegarty? Where's Kyle Hayes? Where's all these players? Look, the most interesting thing, really, let's face it, about Limerick in the early part of the year is the Kyle Hayes stuff. There's no real dancing around that. It's the most interesting. Like it's a completely unprecedented thing in Gaelic games. A player from the All-Ireland champions, from the very best team in the country, facing a really huge court date in a couple of weeks. That is by far the most interesting thing about them at this point in the year. Not their league games are fine, but like they're kind of neither here nor there to the general populace.
And the only other thing, Mal, and I don't know again how significant this is, because I really don't have a clue. But I suppose one of the biggest challenges that they potentially could face is the mental one in terms of trying to go where no hurling team has gone before, and the absence of Caroline Currid.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's of any significance.
I think it is. I think it's bound to be of significance. I think it's the sort of thing that you only find out the significance in August and September and October, when maybe some people will tell you the significance of it. Even they won't really know it until retrospect. I know when I would be astonished to find if we find out at somewhere down the line that they haven't had Jim Gavin or somebody involved with Dublin's 5 in a row down to talk to them and to talk them through what 2019 was for the Dublin footballers, the only GAA team to ever have done it. I know the more we found out in retrospect, the Dublin footballers faced it head on. They didn't make it. No, they lied to us the whole way through 2019 and said that it wasn't a thing. And then the minute 2019 was over, they told us, oh yeah, actually we talked about it from the very first training session, the very first team meeting. We put it out into the room, and they had Gary Keegan on board at the time, who's now with obviously the Ireland rugby team. So they made that a huge pillar of their year. So I don't doubt that Limerick have like, Kylie's very intuitive, very intellectually sensitive guy. I presume that they are dealing with that along the way. I think in an odd kind of way, the fact that Dublin did it so recently shows that it can be done, that it's not this massive thing that has never been done in the GAA.
We did the same, Malachy. We did the same when we won the 1 in a row.
Exactly.
We put it out there as well and say, we're going to do this, let's.
Very same.
But I think, like, I think it's there. I don't know how big a deal it would be, but it's there. There's no point dancing around it.
Yeah. Lads, I'm conscious of time. So the one other big thing I do want to touch on this week is obviously financial reports and all that coming out. And the big thing, Rory, which has just been coming at us for years and years and years. People have been talking about the money. It can't get any bigger. All of a sudden, you're looking at intercounty spends of 40 million euro. And it is being described as a runaway train. And I just don't know how somebody's going to catch hold of this, because it seems to me that every year, if somebody wants to go and ask for more financial support and they get it, then what's to stop the other counties from this happening? And I just don't think anybody's going to be able to get a handle on this at any time soon, based on the evidence.
I think you've actually nailed it. How do you get a handle on it? One of the most stark points that came out in the couple of news reports that I've read of recently, particularly Colm Keys, who always does fantastic work on this, is that it's doubled in a decade.
Yeah.
In 10 years, it's gone from 20 million to 40 million. 40 million euro. I mean, I was working it out. I think the budgets for all 10 League of Ireland clubs, and they're fully professional, by the way, is somewhere around 22 or 23 million. That's all of them combined. The notion of amateurism is at stake here. The very notion that we're an amateur organisation is a bit of a fallacy, in my view, when you're spending 40 million a year on preparing your intercounty teams. I know people are saying, and apparently Tom Ryan's report is going to come out, and it's been described before as a runaway train, but the horse is bolted. The stable door is long since open. There's no clawing this back. And I think a full appraisal of where you're going, either do you sign up to charters? Is it centrally funded? I don't know how you're going to, like, it's genie back in the bottle stuff. And I saw particularly one line from Colm Keys where he described county board officers lying awake at night worrying about how they're going to actually fund an awful lot of the expenses involved. And to my mind, that's a pretty sad indictment of the modern Gaelic Athletic Association.
Shane, can I ask you a question from a player's point of view? Because I do often wonder, the people at the centre of this are the actual real amateurs in this who don't see sight nor sound or any of this. But when somebody's coming in and saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, is there any sense from a player's point of view that this is actually getting out of hand?
No. There isn't, no, because they'll look at it as, what do we have to do to win? Like, that's what they look at it. They'll go, lads, we're going to go to Portugal for 5 days. And then later on in the year, we're going to maybe go over to a centre of excellence in Leeds for 2 or 3 days. And you'll be like, that helps us win, let's do it. Not one player is worrying where that money is coming from. Obviously, the county boards are. But like Jacqui, I'll tell you now, and like the lads will agree, what's going on with the top counties that's not been, put out there publicly. I think that money could be more. Like I guarantee you, there's inter-county managers who are up and down the country who are doing things and fundraising themselves, are doing things off their own back, getting businessmen in or getting business people in to sponsor something, to look after a weekend away somewhere in some centre of excellence around the country or wherever it may be, Jacqui. So the players, I tell you now, the players don't care. They won't care as long as they can win. They don't mind how much it costs. And to a lesser degree, the people within that county won't mind how much it's costing. Do you think anybody in Limerick cares how much it's after costing them to win 4 in a row? Not one person.
Well, they don't care in Limerick because...
Well, they won't care in Limerick because they have cash cow, like, but I mean, like, in Dublin even, with who they've had sponsoring them over the last few years. Like, when you're winning, I don't think it really matters. Like, it's the teams that are spending these things and they're not seeing anything out of it. That's probably where, the biggest thing is coming out of. So... To answer your question in a roundabout way, do the players care? No, they don't care. They're just delighted to get going on these trips, and they'll feel, and the managers will feel, if they are not spending it, Jacqui, that their next team, their next rival is, and they're going to get a foothold on them. And I think that's where it does get blown out of proportion. But I tell you, there's lots going on that maybe we don't know about in the public either, fundraising, etc., sponsorship of trips. That'd be my view on it. Like.
Well, that's one question then, Mal, right? That's fine for the counties who are winning. What about the teams who aren't and they're still pumping all this money in? And that's probably where the greater problem of it lies.
Well, I did see a team in Division 4 of the Football League helicopter their manager from Belfast to Wexford last Saturday, and he got into a lot of trouble for it. So there's obviously money flying around everywhere. Look, it's a really interesting time, actually. Right. And Rory's right about Colin Keys. Colin Keys does amazing work on this for the Irish Independent, and he clearly has a head for it that a lot of the rest of us just do not have the time, not even the time, the head or the patience to do it as forensically as he does.
And it's not always easy for him to get the information as well, man.
Exactly. God bless him for it. And it's fantastic work that he does. But one of the interesting things about, and I read his piece cover to cover the week before last, all but 6 county boards had a surplus last year. Yeah. The spending has gone is a rocket ship. But at the minute, it's possible because most counties aren't losing money. Most counties are making massive money through their commercial work, through whatever they get from Central Council or from Croke Park, from sponsorships, etc., from gates, etc.
From the club streaming is a big one as well, man.
It's huge. Well in county, absolutely, yeah. and it's so like the GAA as a business, as a way, as a mode of making money has really accelerated over the past 10 years as well. So that should be said too. But why this is a really interesting time is that this is the time to have the conversation. Because when we talk about, this is a runaway train, what's going to stop it? It's very, very clear what will stop it. A couple of counties will go bust. A couple of entities will absolutely have a...
But how close are we to that, though? Because Tom Ryan will be asked about this and then it'll go away again.
But exactly, this is my point, Jacqui. That now is the time to really get a handle on it, because the alternative is that you get a handle on it when it's far too late, when the equivalent of the IMF have to come in and take over the running of everything. Look, this is a small thing, right? But the idea that all of this is unmanageable is a dangerous thing to get out there, right? There is supposed to be a limit on panel sizes. Look, this is not the biggest deal in the world, but it's...
Sure, Mal, they told us the split season. They told us the split season would reduce it because,
but what has happened? I was at, I wasn't at them, but I was reading about games in the McKenna Cup, in the McGrath Cup, in the Munster Hurling League, where teams had their second team playing in the pre-season competitions while their first team was off playing a challenge match against another county's first team of playing a challenge match. You're talking there about, in the middle of January, counties having, that has to be the guts of 40 players, maybe upwards of 40 to 50 players. They're carrying panels of that size. And they aren't just carrying them the week of a McKenna Cup match. They're carrying them for the previous 3 months. And the McKenna Cup match is the point at which the panels start to get cut down for the league to whatever they are, 26 to 30 for the league. So what you've got there is plenty of counties are carrying upwards of 40 players for the 3 months in the winter where they're training and getting ready for pre-season. That's enormous expense. It's not what's costing the runaway train, but it is part of the whole thing. But there are supposed to be rules around that. You are supposed to be allowed a certain panel size.
Sure, who lives by the rules, like, you know?
But this is my point, that the idea has been allowed to get out there through so many different reasons over the years, that the rules are there. Sure, once the fella down the road isn't observing his rules, then how am I going to get my fellas to observe their rules? And this idea that the GAA or that inter-county game is unmanageable at an administrative level, that has to end. That's got to be one of the steps towards stopping the runaway train. It's a small thing, but it's I think it's a dangerous thing that we sort of shrug our shoulders and go, sure, who's going to tell the manager that he can't carry that amount of players?
Yeah.
You know?
But I don't know. It does. And just one other point. I know the point that Mal makes in and around a lot of counties. I mean, for instance, we've seen with Galway, they're a classic example, and Paul Bellew, their chair, really open and really honest guy, make the point, you know, that they, I think, had the biggest spend of all, because all their 6 teams go deep into championship every year, and I think their spend was something around 2.2 million over the course of 2023. Now, they still posted a surplus because they've turned their financial situation around. The key point, though, is it isn't necessarily, there's one aspect around the potential of counties to actually go bust. That now is a frightening vista, but maybe not one that is as unrealistic as we think. The second aspect with it is this: the notion of what your income is there for is something that needs to be discussed, because is all of your income coming in just to be spent on your intercounty teams? Like, there are a myriad of areas that need income in terms of coaching, infrastructure, development, games promotion, marketing, trying to push the games on. We see soccer now potentially moving to a summer season as well, which is going to put us GAA directly into competition with soccer clubs from the calendar year, because they're potentially moving away from the school year, which is what they have employed up to now. So the GAA is facing challenges on a whole plethora of fronts, yet it's very top heavy in terms of its economic spend on one very, very, albeit hugely important part, but one very small part of the entire picture.
Yeah, well put. Shane, last word to you, because we're going to have to leave it here very soon.
No, the lads have said it all. I'd say, look, lads, as players, the top teams, they're going to keep doing it and keep doing it. What was it Kevin O'Donovan said, the Cork chief exec, he said there has to be total honest engagement. So therein lies the problem, lads. If there's a rule for one, if the team down the road are keeping 42 players, do you think their rivals are going to try and do the same?
And by the way,
that's what it comes down to. Like,
and by the way, Shane, who is it that wants them not to carry the 42 players? It's certainly not the panel themselves. It's certainly not the management. It's certainly not the people of the county who are the ones that are getting, as Rory says, away from whom the resources spent on these players. Do you go to them and say, okay, listen, on the side, would you rather we carried the 42 players that the crowd down the road are carrying, or would you rather we put that into, a few structures here and there? And Like, what's their honest answer? Like,
How many times do you think someone from Kilkenny County Board went up to Brian Cody and told him Cody's pedal?
Yeah.
Not too many.
Yeah. If only there was someone to enforce the rules, lads. If only. Right. Look, we'll have to leave it there. Thoroughly enjoyed that chat this morning. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Looking forward to all the action this weekend. Wherever you are going, enjoy it. And we'll talk to you next week.
Cheers.